We are continuing the conversation this week of what are 4 things you should be doing right now and all through 2025 to be a top agent in your market. These are simple things to do. It does not mean they're easy, but they are simple things to do. Everyone can do them regardless of the experience you have in the industry, the time you've been in the industry, the area or the market you're working in. It's truly a for everyone concept, and it's 4 simple things. So we've been going through stages 1 and 2, and we are looking at those. I'm not going to relive all of them, but I will remind you quickly. The first thing you're going to do is know the plans of everyone in your database. And it goes like this. Hey, what are your real estate plans in 2025? We know everyone's going to do one of 5 things: stay, buy, sell, invest, or rent. I'll tell you quickly. I went through that yesterday on a broader team, like whole team sales meeting for my company. And some people had like a negative response to it where they felt like, oh, I don't want to just, robotically ask that question. Let me really be clear on something. You're going to ask, hey, what are your real estate plans in 2025? If you need to know more about that, go back and listen to the prior days, right? Um, the only way you're going into the 5 things we know all people are doing is if there's a hesitancy of some kind. You're like, you might not have any. One of the options is to stay put. And actually, most people are not going to move or buy or sell or invest or rent next year. So we know it's one of 5 things, right? Learn the conversation so you can have a conversation, right? Not say awkward, strange things that don't feel normal or good to you. If you feel weird, they feel weird, right? And remember, this is also important. You're always helping. Your goal is to help. So if you're leaving people to their own devices to be led by whatever they're seeing on the internet or whatever news channel they're watching or whatever Uncle Joey told them over Thanksgiving dinner, are you having them do their best things for them first? I'm going to suggest that the answer is no, right? I literally was just speaking with my niece who's looking to make a purchase, and one family member told her, I don't know, is it the right time to buy? Interest rates seem kind of high. This will be her first purchase, and the sooner she owns real estate, the better. All that being said, that's the purpose of number 1. Number 2, create buyer side demand. There's a whole list of things we're going to do through that. Go back and listen to yesterday's call. That's December 4th if you want to learn about that one. Today we are looking at number 3, and I think we'll get to number 4 as well. Number 3 is creating clear seller expectations, right? So what does that mean? It means for someone who you're going to have a listing appointment with, you do not know unless you ask, when is the last time they sold a property? When is the last time they were a seller, right? Don't look up their tax records and assume they've owned this house for 37 years, so they haven't sold in 37 years. Perhaps they own property in another location that you're not considering, right? Perhaps they handled a trust sale for a family member. Perhaps a lot of things. The only way to know the actual answer is to ask and have them tell you, okay? So when I say creating clear seller expectations, it really goes right in line with knowing the actual reality in the current moment, right? So your job is to share with your sellers, listen, when's the last time you sold a property? Listen for what they tell you and then take it in. Don't just listen and wait for your turn to talk. Okay. After you listen to the answer and make a note of what it was. If it was very recently, for instance, if they just sold a property in any of the time from like April of 2020 through July of 2022, they would have experienced a very different seller's market than we're experiencing now. And depending on where we are in the country, right? Depending on where you are in the country or in the world, your market is hyper local to you. I'm going to speak to San Diego specifically. And in San Diego, it is very micro marketed. Throughout the county, there are pockets where things are still multiple offers, going quickly, going above asking, etc. There are pockets where things are sitting. That's also going to be dependent on price point. It's going to be location and price. It's always been location and price. It just feels different now, right? So you want to learn from them, what is their knowledge base? What is their expectation before consulting with you? Because they have one, right? If they've been listening to media that's telling them that all of the, let me just do this pin drop real quick. If they're listening to media that's telling them that all of the inventory is low, so it's a great time to sell, and if you sell, you should expect this, and they're watching it like on the news or whatever their trusted source is, and then you come in with a completely different perspective, reality, right? It might feel strange for them. So your best bet to create clear seller expectations is first to ask them, what do they know? What's their knowledge base? Hey, what media have you been following? What podcasts have you been listening to? What are you learning from the headlines out there and whatever articles you're reading about the real estate market? Gauge their level of understanding completely as thoroughly as possible. And you want to let them know if they're like, what do you care what I know? I want to know what you know. You're the expert, right? Excellent question. The reality is everyone has their own reality, like in their brain in the moment. And so, whatever your reality is, I want to make sure we're talking about all the things that are most important to you. And what we know is we're influenced by the things we consume. So, that conversation might feel a little weird if that's the first time you've ever had something like that. If you have a seller who maybe is a like a for sale by owner you went to see or something like that, where the meeting might feel a little more like prove your value to me, show me your worth. That's where it can be a little more I don't want to say confrontational, and yet that's the word that comes to mind, right? Literally the only person I ever had ask me question of like, have you sold a home in this neighborhood before was a for sale by owner. Otherwise, if you've done your pre-listing package, if you've had the conversations before you're getting to the table, you've already shown your value and proven your worth to a high level. And so those conversations aren't coming up at the table, right? So you want to know where they're coming from, what's their current perspective on reality, and then you want to set clear seller expectations based on what you see to be reality through comps, through the market, through what you're actually seeing in our office or in your local office, wherever you are. That's the most important thing on seller expectations, so that if we need to be more aggressive with price, I always like to be aggressive with price, but if we need to be more aggressive with price, you prepared them for that. If we should expect like one showing, every other day or whatever based on price point and location versus, oh, their cousin just sold their house, 2 years ago and they had 400,000 million showings in 24 hours. They're having conversations, even if they're not consuming media. Their cousins, brothers, sisters, mothers, all those people at the water cooler at work, everyone's had a conversation. And so as soon as you go to have your house being sold or buying, suddenly every person you know has an opinion on real estate. So you want to really get the clear expectations and perspective on where your seller's coming from 100% across the board. Okay. And that's number three. It's pretty simple. I know that might sound complicated, but it is pretty simple in what we're talking about. Based on at the listing table, at the conversation, you should always be setting clear expectations. This should not be something that goes away 3 years from now if we feel like, oh, the market's the same, the conversations are similar, nothing's really changed that drastically. You should always be setting clear expectations. These are consistent things that you're doing in your business to win forever. Okay. So the fourth thing, this one's a little more aggressive maybe than you would need to be doing forever. And yet we're going to talk about it in a for now. And the reality is once you've done it, you're going to want to keep doing it forever to some capacity, right? And what it is we've learned that there's something called creative avoidance, right? That we don't necessarily have a production problem right now. We have a creative, entrepreneurial, creative avoidance problem. And so what I'm going to say next is going to be very cut and dry. Have a meeting a day with a person who wants to buy or sell real estate. Where am I going to get a person from? How am I going to do that? Oh my gosh, I don't even know anybody right now. I have no pipeline. I have no people. All the internal thoughts that you're having, they're okay. They don't need to be buying or selling real estate today or this week or even this month, right? You want to get into the habit of having conversations with people daily who are looking to make a move in real estate and buying or selling. That could be investing, that could be buying a second property for themselves that they don't even consider investing because they want to use it and don't want to rent it and whatever the case might be. But if they're buying a second piece of property, it is an investment, right? The first piece is also an investment, but it's also your shelter. So, it has two rules. A meeting a day, and here's why. The quote I'll give you is, "We're addicted to immediate gratification." And the reality is, this is a communication business. The more we can have conversations with people, the more dots we will have to connect in the future, the better our conversation skills will be. The more we will start to see opportunities appearing left, right, and sideways. The more you'll hear someone who's looking to do something, and then you heard someone else who's looking to do something, and suddenly you're matchmaking off market and controlling your own inventory, right? There's so much to be said for this. And what I want you to hear is this: if your goal is a conversation a day and that feels overwhelming, what if I backed it up with this? What if I said, if you're willing to have a conversation a day about buying, selling, investing, real estate. Hey, how are you? What are your plans? Hey, you just had a baby. That's amazing. Did you know that a lot of people are looking at the opportunity to buy an investment property as soon as possible after their child is born so that it becomes their long-term wealth investment? Have you read the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor? I know the title might sound a little overwhelming because a millionaire real estate investor, you're like, am I a millionaire? Am I a real estate investor? I don't know if I'm any of those things, right? And the reality is, most people are net worth millionaires right now if they own real estate anywhere, because so many of us are millionaire owners. That's my side note for you. The millionaire net worth part isn't for you to share with your people. What is to share is this: if you don't have that blue book, I suggest you get it and start handing it out to people in those conversations. Make that your goal. You can order a case for yourself on like Keller Ink. You get a discount when you order the case. You can also order them one at a time if that's more, interesting for you. You can order the Your First Home book if you're going to be meeting with first time home buyers more often, or people who are still renting and you want to get them to understand how they can buy. Between those two books, you should also read them. You will have an expert perspective, and you are opening up doors for people to true wealth building that they don't know are available to them, right? Why is that important? Because the reality is, the millionaire real estate investor, and going back to that conversation, yes, I know that it might sound overwhelming or like that's not for me. The reality is, the book is written so simply that it truly is for everyone, because the greatest investment we can have on earth is owning earth, right? We're not making any more. So the more interesting that might be to you, and here's what you say when you give it to someone. Hey, if this book is interesting to you and excites you, give me a call back. Let's talk about it. If this book is interesting to you and scary, give me a call back. Let's talk about it. If it's just scary and freaks you out, just think of someone else who you like in your life and pass it on to them, and, tell them the same thing. They can call me if they want to. A lot of people go ahead and write that into the front cover when you're giving it to somebody. There's no right or wrong way to do it, as long as you're doing it and taking action. So what I'm going to say next is this: when you're doing the work of having a conversation a day with someone, gifting someone the book, having those conversations that are meaningful with people, right? Learning about them and where they are in their life and where do they want to be? Where do you want to be 2 years from now, 7 years from now, 12 years from now, 20 years from now, wherever they plan on being? If they already know they want to buy a second home in another location, and that market is really good right now and softening, perhaps they can find a way to buy that home today and let it be an investment property and rent it out until they're ready to actually move there. What I want you to really hear there is, there's so many conversations to have with people about life plans outside of what are you doing today and how can I make money off of you? If that's your conversation, that does feel weird, right? That's not helping. That's not long-term planning. That's not wealth building over time. What I want to say about that is, when you're willing to commit to having that conversation a day, you only need to have it for 9 months of the year. I had to think. I often look up when I think. I don't know if you've noticed that about me yet. So you're going to get 3 months off. Woo! 3 months off. Now, who is excited about the idea of having a conversation a day and having 3 months off to live your best life, right? So that's the most important part. I really want to simplify it. And here's the magic of what comes out of this, because you're like, a conversation a day, 3 months off. What is she talking about? If you have a conversation a day, 5 days a week, not seven, right? So many agents work 7 days a week and aren't successful. Let's work 5 days a week. Let's have one conversation a day, and let's have 3 months off. Here's what's going to happen. That's 200 conversations had. If half of those people know someone or they themselves want to do something, right? Then that becomes 100 appointments and possibilities. Through those 100 appointments and possibilities that get to contracts, even if you have a 50% close ratio, that's 50 closings. I'm okay with that. Even if you were like, well, if I start today, what if the pipeline takes longer? Fine. Say that that 50 pipeline of closing, say that there's some that push out a little farther, and say some of them are actually pushing out into the second year. That's maybe 25 this year and 25 next year. Most agents in San Diego don't close more than 25 contracts a year, which means even if you push it out and spread it over 2 years, you are still going to be in a top percentage of real estate agents next year. And beyond that, you're going to be making a ton of money and have 3 months off and help a bunch of people, right? So those are the third and fourth steps of it. What are your real estate plans in 2025 is number one. Number two is create that buy side demand. And that really means help people learn how to move forward in this market. Number three is set clear seller expectations, help people understand what's happening for them in their hyperlocal market. And number four is have a conversation a day, but you get to have 3 months off when you do it that way. It's a great day to have a great day. Go out and make it true for you, and I will see you tomorrow.